The case against Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia, brought by District Attorney Fani Willis, has always been interesting ever since it was brought into court for any number of different reasons, most of them having to do with the uniqueness of the way that District Attorney Willis is using the RICO statutes to bring her case against the former president. But it got even more interesting when the lawyers for one of the defendants filed a motion asking for an evidentiary hearing on the question of whether or not District Attorney Willis was benefiting financially given her relationship with Nathan Wade, the lead prosecutor in the Trump case. Well, the evidentiary hearing took place today, and boy, was it full of fireworks. We've got highlights and a little bit of commentary, so hang on, folks. We're going to get into all this in just 1 second. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. On Thursday, the evidentiary hearing opened up regarding the question of whether District Attorney Fani Willis of Fulton County, Georgia, was somehow benefiting financially from a relationship that she had with her lead prosecutor and one-time boyfriend, Nathan Wade. A relationship between the two of them, which, by the way, didn't come to light until after the prosecution began of former President Donald Trump. And the testimony really got spicy, as the kids say these days. Let's take a look at an article to kind of sum up what's going on. I'll show you some highlights, and then I'll give you my opinion about where this thing is at and where I think it may yet be going. So we start with our friends at the Gateway Pundit. Headline, quote, I am not a hostile witness. Breaking. A defiant Fani Willis takes the witness stand, rambles about her relationship with Nathan Wade, shouts at the prosecutor. Article written by Christina Layla. We read the following. An evidentiary hearing about alleged misconduct by Soros-backed Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis was underway on Thursday as the judge weighs whether Willis should be disqualified from the Trump RICO case. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Fani Willis financially benefited from a romantic relationship with top Trump prosecutor Nathan Wade. Trump's RICO co-defendant, Michael Roman, filed an explosive supplemental reply to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and accused her of lying to the court about her affair with the top Trump prosecutor she appointed. Wilson's paramour, Nathan Wade, took the stand and testified under oath that he paid for all the vacations he took with Fani Willis with his business card, and Fani Willis reimbursed him in cash for the expenses. Nathan Wade spent money on Fani Willis by buying her flowers, paying for hotel, air travel, a cruise, and Ubers. The bank statements provided by Jocelyn Wade proved Nathan Wade bought Fani Willis flights to Miami and San Francisco. Fani Willis took the stand on Thursday, and she was hostile, arrogant, and defiant. And folks, let me tell you something. We got some clips here in just a minute. That's not much of an exaggeration. Now, I think you'll see it when we show it to you, but we go back to the article. Reading a little bit further, we have the following. Quote, I am not a hostile witness. I very much want to be here. Miss Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine, Willis said. Willis rambled on and on about her relationship with Nathan Wade under cross-examination by Michael Roman's attorney, Ashley Merchant. Merchant asked Willis about her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade when it ended. Willis said their relationship ended in August of 2023. Ashley Merchant asked Fani Willis if Nathan Wade ever stayed with her, quote, where she laid her head, and Fani Willis lost it. She lied, Willis shouted before the attorneys went to a break. Scott McAfee admonished the court after everyone returned from the break and went back on record. McAfee is the judge overseeing the evidentiary hearing. Fani Willis lashed out at Merchant, asking if she ever paid Nathan Wade through the Cash App. That was cute, Willis shouted at Merchant. It is clear, quote, it is clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one, Judge McAfee said in Monday's hearing. The state has admitted a relationship existed, And so what remains to be proven is the existence and the extent of any financial benefit, again, if there was even one. And so, because I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification, I think an evidentiary hearing must occur to establish the record on these core allegations. Okay, let's get into this. Now, for the record, and I will say up front, I am no lawyer. I am just trying to follow this as much as any layman can. But I will make a recommendation to you. If you want some really good coverage on this, check out the channel of Good Logic. It's hosted by a gentleman named Joe Learman. He's an attorney out of New York City. He is absolutely fantastic. He is one of the members of what's called LawTube. He's doing live coverage of the hearing, and let me tell you, his insights are fantastic. I find Joe to be a very reasonable, even-handed individual when it comes to viewing these sort of things. He'll give you a good basic breakdown, and I'm not going to lie, he's who I'm following as I try to keep up with this. But the day started off very interestingly as one of the first witnesses sort of brought to light, or maybe better to say, put to rest, something that Fani Willis, who we affectionately refer to as Fani or Fanny Pack here on the Electronic Front Porch, and Nathan Wade have been saying for a while. Well, the relationship started, kind of recently. Well, the first witness kind of put that to bed real fast. So this is an individual testifying on this matter. I believe their name is Gettr. So, folks, take a listen to this and you tell me what you think about it all.
Or what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
Okay, there's problem number one for our star-crossed lovers. They've told everybody that the relationship was relatively new, maybe 2021, 2022, somewhere in there. But yet, apparently, according to this witness, it was quite obvious they were in a relationship going all the way back to 2019 at the time, under which, by the way, Mr. Wade was still married. But let's move on to our next clip. So a little later, Nathan Wade himself takes a stand, and in doing so, he drops a very interesting bombshell revelation having to do with how things were paid for in the relationship between himself and Fanny Pack. So, folks, check this out and tell me what you think.
All I needed. You said in the affidavit that you roughly shared travel, though, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this roughly sharing travel, you're saying she reimbursed you.
She did.
And where did you deposit the money she reimbursed you?
Oh, it was cash. She didn't give me any checks.
So she paid you cash for her share of all these vacations.
Mr. Schaefer, you'll step out if you do that again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so all of the vacations that she took, she paid you cash for.
Yes, ma'am.
And you purchased all of these vacations on your business credit card, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you included those in deductions on your taxes, correct?
No, ma'am.
No, you did not.
Okay. Now, this might sound a little bit unusual to people, and let me explain more or less what I'm getting at. Apparently they had a very interesting understanding in their relationship, or at least this is what they're testifying to, that they more or less split the expenses of their relationship. Okay, not necessarily an uncommon thing these days. But what makes this sort of strange is he's paying for things on his business credit card and she's reimbursing him, but she's doing it purely in cash. Not through the Cash app, which, by the way, she's also testified that she's used the Cash app as a means to pay certain bills for herself, rent, other expenses. But she's giving him straight cash. That is strange and gets stranger as we go along. So let's get to our next clip. And this is old Fanny Pack taking the stand on her own. And I want to play this because this gets really interesting because the lawyer, Ms. Merchant, hones in on the question of, well, where did you get the cash? Well, take a listen to this, and I want to expound on this myself. So check this one out.
And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period that's probably in there.
You don't
It
know
could
what-
have.
Now, I want to stop here for just 1 second and mention something, because to a lot of people, hearing her say that she could over the years keep anything from $500 to $15,000 in her house might sound highly unusual, but it's not necessarily if you look at it from a cultural standpoint. Most people know where I live in the world. It's in Appalachia. And even though it is the 21st century, it is not uncommon for individuals in my neck of the woods, if I may use that expression, to keep large amounts of actual physical cash in their house. In the line of work that I'm in when I'm not doing social media, I occasionally still run into this. And it makes it somewhat difficult for documentation purposes for the individual who is doing this sort of thing. In other words, they keep a large amount of cash in their house. It makes it difficult for documentation purposes to show where the assets come from. But it still happens. So I'm not necessarily surprised that Fanny Pack is keeping money in her house, although to keep upwards of $15,000, even by Appalachia standards, that's a little bit much. But what makes it all very strange is she can't necessarily specify where the cash came from. Now, according to her testimony that she gave a little earlier, she's paid by 2 different sources. One is Fulton County, Georgia. The other is the state of Georgia. So if the monies are direct deposited into her account, the only way she could get to the cash is if she's withdrawing it, either at an ATM machine or she's walking into the bank and walking out with large amounts of cash. Again, nothing necessarily illegal about that. But again, it just strikes everyone odd as they're looking at it. Wade's paying for it on his business credit cards. She's reimbursing him in cash. There are no receipts. There are no records. The only thing we might have record of, if it's ever pulled up, are her bank records showing where she took out amounts of cash, which again, her money, perfectly legal. However, I will say this. There was one point during her testimony today where she casually dropped the comment, well, when I first ran my campaign, I had monies left over. Wait a minute. Are you saying that you took cash out of your campaign that you were running at one point for an office and you just held on to the cash in your house? Now, maybe that's permissible under Georgia law. I'm not trying to imply anything, but it does sort of raise eyebrows and you sort of want to ask the question. So it goes on a little bit further with these two. And when I said earlier, or I should say when the Gateway pundit said that she came across as hostile, rude, and sniping, they weren't wrong. Let me show you a clip. It runs about 20 seconds, and this ought to give you an idea of how it went between Fanny Pack and Ashley Merchant, the attorney for Michael Roman. Check this out. This is really eye-opening.
Point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostily in the city.
I think we
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be
Not
here.
so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
All right.
Point where
Yeah, so you sort of get the idea how this is going, and it was like this. Now, for the record, Fanny Pack shocked everybody because no one was expecting her to testify. If you ask me what I think was happening, the first witness comes up and blows a hole in her and Nathan's story about when their relationship took off. Nathan's testimony, to be perfectly honest, from my perspective, was shaky at best. He was nice, he was cordial, amiable, rambled on with his answers, but he wasn't exactly helping the cause. It was at that point that Fani Willis waived privilege and voluntarily took the stand. If you want my opinion, I think she saw what was happening. It's like, I gotta rectify this somehow. And she gave answers that were rambling, almost to the point of it was a filibuster. She, to describe it in the way of Joe Learman from Good Logic, got up on her soapbox on several occasions and proceeded to give a diatribe answer about why the people asking her questions were wrong. They were rude. They were intrusive. They were getting into people's personal lives. She made a statement at one point that she was not going to see a black man emasculated, talking about Nathan Wade. So, yeah, there were a lot of fireworks that went off. And finally, at one point, the judge had to call for a 5-minute recess to try and get her under control. Now, where does this leave it? Well, there's going to be more testimony on Friday, and there will be direct arguments made about why the judge should or should not rule on the question of whether or not Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade be thrown off of the prosecution. So, as far as opinions on this matter, well, let me take you straight to our good friend Viva Fry. Fani Willis's testimony is an abject disaster. She's being removed from this case, and she is running into more serious problems. That's my prediction. Brooklyn Dad says, holy shite, this part. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused, and you think I'm on trial? These people are on trial for trying to steal an election. Fani Willis isn't playing. Okay, I want to go back to the last paragraph of that Gateway Pundit article, and we'll wrap this up. I think it's clear that disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one, Judge McAfee said in Monday's hearing. The state has admitted a relationship existed, and so what remains to be proven is the existence and the extent of any financial benefit, again, if there even was one. Now, notice what he says. Disqualification can occur if evidence is produced demonstrating an actual conflict or the appearance of one. And I think this is going to be the million-dollar question that hinges on what Judge McAfee decides to do here. If you ask me, and again, I'm no lawyer, and I'm not, licensed in the state of Georgia, even if I were a lawyer, there's a lot of appearance of impropriety here. And if the standard in Georgia that would allow for disqualification is the appearance of impropriety, yeah, I think we've got a lot of that. I also think we also have, from my perspective, we have demonstration of an actual conflict. How do we know that she didn't hire him to financially benefit the both of them? He gets paid by her office. She gets taken around the world by him. Oh, but I'm reimbursing him. I'm a strong, independent whammon. Okay, strong, independent whammon you may be, but you guys can't seem to be able to prove to anybody who actually paid for what. Both of you have testified, talking to Wade and Willis, that nobody kept receipts on anything. The only thing we have are his business credit card records. If she paid him in cash and he's not keeping any records of how much or what was paid for, how do we know how these transactions actually went? Now, a lot of this stuff is still going to be argued out after the direct examination of witnesses is done. So we'll see how this shakes out. Personally, regardless of anything else, we got a major appearance of impropriety. And frankly, even beyond this question in the evidentiary hearing, after all this testimony, there's going to be questions about, the cash. There's going to be questions about tax records. There's going to be questions about billing hours. There's going to be a whole host of things these two have opened the door on. So we'll see where all this goes. But for right now, it's definitely a load of fun. And like I said, if you're going to follow this, go check out Joe Learman's channel on YouTube known as Good Logic, Lawgic. But that's what I think about all of it. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number one, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do so. Number two, please give me a thumbs up. It would really help me out. It would help spread things around vis-a-vis the algorithm. Number 3, hit the bell for notifications. I always want to make sure you're always aware when new material is coming out, be it a video or a live stream. Number 4, please leave a comment below. And finally, please share this video around. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative, and I will see you next time.